Okay, that's all I need to hear. Let's begin. What I've titled this as, it's titled "Physician Heal Thyself." And now, see, you remember a couple of days ago we talked about this, and I had mentioned this to you in the course of our conversation. Physician, heal thyself.
Right, right.
So this is going to be related to everything that we've discussed, everything that we've learned, um, everything that has come into view so far, and it's really an expansion on that. And hopefully, it's going to help us, each of us, lock in uh, collectively on what it is that we need to do to uh, continue this transition from one dimension to another. So it's titled Physician Heal Thyself, Decoding the Story of Jesus, Hiram Abiff, and Comprehending the Transition from the third to the fourth dimension and beyond. Decoding the Story of Jesus slash Hiram Abiff, and comprehending the transition from the third to the fourth dimension and beyond. What I want us to pay particular attention to is the numbers 3 and 4 as they appear. And it's going to be pretty apparent to you as we go through and give examples of this in covering this material. Uh, does everybody knows who Jesus is. Does anybody know who Hiram Abiff is? Hiram Abiff.
Those Hiram Abiff was a character in the Mason narrative.
Yeah, what main
Yeah,
character in the Masonic narrative.
yes.
And absolutely correct. The Masonic narrative is simply a retelling of our stuff.
Yes.
The mystery schools and
Mm-hmm.
you know um, were the repositories of esoteric knowledge
Yes.
in the ancient times, and so the story of Jesus, the story of Hiram Abiff, all of these stories of these great sons, SONs,
Mm-hmm.
are actually the same story. Actually, the same story. So, but this story of Hiram Abiff adds an element uh, to the story of Jesus that is going to be um, very useful and enlightening to us. When we talk about this third and fourth dimension and beyond, we've covered this before in our studies relative to the seven heavens. All right, the seven heavens. Everybody familiar with that? Do we remember?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we had stated that the superimposed heavens of the Quran as well as the Bible are the extra spatial dimensions of modern physics. Listen to that word, extra spatial dimensions
Mm-hmm.
of modern physics. The Quran frequently mentions the existence of seven samawat, which is customarily translated as heaven. The word is the cognate to Hebrew shemayim. All right. So when the Hebrew talks about the shemayim and the Quran talks about the samawat, they are merely talking about these seven extra spatial dimensions that we learn about in our physics class. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from an esoteric understanding, we understand that each of the seven heavens is depicted as being composed of a different material. And Islamic prophets, that is, our ancestors, are resident in each. So the seven heavens have a guardian or a gatekeeper at each of the seven levels. All right. These are simply our ancestors. We've talked about this at length before. And in the document, we went over and we did a full teaching, perceiving the ancestors as watchers or guardians over thought forms. So we're somewhat familiar with this, and we're circling back to it. The first heaven is depicted as being made of silver and is the home of Adam and Eve, as well as the angels of each star. The second heaven is depicted as being made of gold and is the home of John the Baptist and Jesus. Note, in the Osirian myth, Set fashioned a chest, that is a box.
No, okay. I just wanted to make sure while I was upstairs. Okay. Free guy.
That in the Osirian myth, Set fashioned a chest, that is a box, the box, or simulated reality, made of rare cedar inlaid with ebony and ivory, with less rare gold and silver. All right. So we're talking about the simulated reality as we relate to the first two levels or divisions of the seven heavens. The third heaven is depicted as being made of pearls or other dazzling stones, and that brings the pearly gates to mind, the entranceway into heaven. Joseph and Azrael are residents there. The fourth heaven is depicted as being made of white gold. Enoch and the angel of tears reside there. Now remember, Enoch walked with God and was no more. In other words, he was the one that elevated outside of what? The material realms and went somewhere else. With into the realms of the gods, correct? Now that's the fourth dimension, indicating the exit point into the higher dimensions. Are y'all with me?
Okay.
The fifth heaven is depicted as being made of silver, platinum. Aaron, Aharon, and the avenging angel hold court over this heaven. And we made the point that this is where these teachings are coming from. Not seek Aaron, not seek Aharon. That this is the level that these teachings are coming from a higher realm, the fifth dimensional realm. And it just makes sense because that is our next transitional point from the fourth dimension to the fifth dimension. How many times have we said this?
Yes.
So this is where we're at. The sixth heaven is composed of garnets and rubies. Moses can be found there. The seventh heaven, which borrows some concepts from its Jewish counterpart, is depicted as being composed of divine light, incomprehensible to mortal man. So we know that that is beyond what? The fourth dimensional reality. Into more refined light. Abraham is resident of the seventh heaven. According to some hadiths, the highest level of Jannah is Firdaus and Sudat al-Muntaha. A lote tree marks the end of the seventh heaven. A tree. So this is very, very instructional. This should not confuse anyone. We've gone over this several times. We have this understanding. We're going to get into the physics of these things to get a better understanding. The number 7 also refers to the 7 chakras that make up
Yes.
what? Our temple. Our temple. So if you're with me, if you're taking notes, write down the number 7. Remember, we talked about the 7 lamps in Solomon's temple that were what? That corresponded to the candlestick, which is what? The spine, and the spinal cord. The candlestick that what? Illuminates the brain. Activating us fully. These 7 energy centers correspond to the 7 systems, organ systems of the body. The nervous system, the circulatory system, the digestive system, the muscular system, the skeletal system, the respiratory system, and the integumentary system. The skin, the largest organ of the body. So 7 heavens, 7 dimensions, 7 energy centers in the body, the 7 lamps in the temple, the 7 energy centers in our body, the candlestick, the spinal cord, the spine corresponding to what? 7 systems, organ systems of the body. Are y'all making the correlation? All right. So let's get back to the 3. The third heaven we're going to talk about, because this is the critical transitional period, dimension. The pearly gates, right? The pearly gates. The third heaven is depicted as being made of pearls or other dazzling stones. This is the pearly gates, how you begin to what? Enter into heaven. Remember, there's a gatekeeper at each dimension. And we are familiar with the story of Peter and the pearly gates. Y'all with me?
Okay.
Now, this has to do directly with the scripture that we read the other day in the teaching, where it talks about the keys to the kingdom, right? And it instructs us that we must make this transition and enter the kingdom from an earthly position. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth, see, it has to begin within the earthly realm, shall be bound in heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. So here we are. We're talking about how we're going to make the transition. Now, Seek made the point that, you can't go from heaven down to earth. It must be from earth and make the connection to heaven. And we showed all of the science of that. The roots go down into the earth first. Then there's a what? Ascension. You are with me?
Okay.
And also, the scripture tells us that flesh and blood cannot do what? Inherit the kingdom. That you must begin, and this is where we've begun the journey within the physical, and then from our earthly position, our physical position, our mental position, not raise the body, but raise what? Our consciousness level into the heavenly. Are you all with me?
Yes. Can.
Raise our vibrational frequency into the higher heavenlies in order to manifest something on earth. Now let's talk about Hiram Abiff now. All of this is talking about the same thing. It's talking about you. All right?
Yes.
Let's get
Yes.
this straight. Hiram
Yes.
Abiff is you. Jesus is you. Hiram Abiff, also Hiram Abiff with just one F, or the widow's son. Keep that in mind. Write that down. The widow's son is the central character of an allegory presented to all candidates during, look, the third degree
Yes.
in Freemasonry.
Yes.
The third degree, what do we say about this third heaven? But that it's a critical transitionary position. Same way with the Masonic order. Hiram is presented as the chief architect of Solomon's temple.
Yes.
Remember, the body is the temple, right?
Yep.
But you are the chief architect.
Okay.
You and I are the chief architects. This is why we're talking about family, physician, heal thyself.
Yes.
You're the one that's going to have to build, construct, repair this ascension vehicle, which is your body. And what? Fuel it up and run it out of here. He is the chief architect of Solomon's temple, who is murdered in the temple he designed. And who was he murdered by? 3 ruffians. Now, we're going to make the connection. Who was Jesus murdered by? He was murdered by 3 ruffians as well. The scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees. These were the 3 elements that he was always in conflict with, that were always adversarial to him. And we're going to find out that the 3 ruffians that killed Hiram Abiff, look, they killed him at at 3 of the 4 gates of the temple. Remember, we're talking about these gateways now. But, we don't want to get waylaid by these 3 ruffians as we attempt to transition through these particular gateways into other dimensions. So, the scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the 3 ruffians, as they unsuccessfully attempted to force him to divulge the master mason's secret passwords. The theme of the allegory are the importance of fidelity and the certainty of death. The certainty of death. Are we dying, family?
Absolutely.
We talked about that if we don't elevate, if we don't make this transition outside of what? This false matrix of reality, represented by what? This relationship that we have within the solar system, this repetitive, inefficient law of diminishing returns, that have to do with consumption and health, but it's not getting it done. It's inefficient. We pointed that out. So this is a furtherance on that idea. You are the widow's son. You and I, we are the widow's son. Now, Nasik has pointed this out before. He covered this before. And he's going to understand perfectly what it is that I'm referring to. Hebrews 7. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem. Now, what does king of Salem mean but king of wholeness? Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Shalom.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Nasik.
Mm-hmm. No, I said that's absolutely right.
This is what you've covered. Priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. Now remember that Abraham is shown as residing over the seventh heaven. Are you all with me?
Right.
This
Mm-hmm.
this is our ancestors now with this brilliant mind, weaving
Right.
all of these
Right.
apparently different tales and narratives together, to whom
Mm-hmm.
Abraham gave a tenth part of all. First being the interpretation, being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. Now, we get into this king of righteousness, king of doing things the right way based on what? Natural laws. But the higher understanding of it is the king of Salem, meaning the king of wholeness, uh, which the idea of oneism and holism and the holistic idea is the supreme idea that all things are one, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now here's the thing now. Without father, without mother, that would be a widow's son, right? Without father,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
without mother, without descent, without descent. Now we know that DNA family has everything to do with what we used to call being a descendant, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That is the two-strand DNA. The hidden 10-strand DNA has everything to do with ascension. Are you all with me?
Yes. Yes.
See, we are Hiram Abiff. We are Jesus. We are Melchizedek,
Mm-hmm.
having neither beginning of days nor end of life. We said that we emanated in here. We ain't had no beginning of days. We know when we incarnated,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but made like unto what? The Son of God. Who is the Son of God in the biblical narrative but Jesus? All of this is the
Right.
same thing. Abideth a priest continually. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham family came from the seventh dimension and gave him a tenth of the spoils.
Mm. Mm.
See, this is telling us how we have to.
And just,
It is telling us how we have to perceive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You can't look at yourself as merely a human that came here 30,
Right.
50, 60 years ago. We have to change our perceptions in order to ascend.
Mm-hmm.
And the ancestors will come from different dimensions, higher dimensions, like Abraham, and aid us. And not just aid us, honor us.
Yes.
in this ascension process. It's exactly what happened last evening. Everybody with me now?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the prophetic aspect of it. Psalms 110. The Lord said unto my Lord. Now, let's stop right there. Now, that's always given us some type of confusion from a religious standpoint. The Lord said unto my
Right.
sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. The Lord send thee, the Lord shall send the rod of strength. The rod of strength. What do y'all imagine this rod of strength is? A lit candle, family.
It's the chakra system.
That's right. Absolutely. Fully activated.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Out of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere.
Right.
We're going to pull this power. We're going to command it from earth, either bind it or loose it in heaven, and rule our enemies that way. We ain't going nowhere. We ain't leaving this physical body like that. It's going to change. It's going to change. But we don't have to die to do this. Are you all
What did it say? It said, in a twinkling of an eye, huh?
That's correct. That's it. That's it. We all going to be changed. Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauties of holiness, from the womb of the morning. Thou hast the dew of thy youth. What was we talking about yesterday? That as we transition into this diet, talk about this lady didn't eat in what, 50 some years. And
Right.
She was
Right.
she was 68 years old and she looked like a little girl.
Little girl.
Necessary transition. Necessary transition. But we cannot stay where we are, family, and do this.
Right.
The Lord hath sworn and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Makes sense now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Got to change your perception from descension with father and mother to ascension.
See, in previous times, Eitai, we were made to believe that this whole conception of a savior was always one individual.
That's
you
correct.
see, so, but when you go back and search the scriptures real close, you see that not one savior ever saved anybody. The essence of every individual that was saved, he saved himself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right.
That's why we talking about physician, heal thyself.
Right.
Heal thyself.
Right. Yeah.
The Lord at thy right hand shall strike through kings in the day of his wrath. He shall judge among the heathen. He shall fill the places with dead bodies. He shall wound the heads over many countries. He shall drink of the brook in the way. Therefore shall he lift up the head. We're going to go back and decode this. We're going to circle back to this, Nasi.
Okay.
And as we increase our knowledge, it's going to make perfect sense within the prophetic framework. We're going to know exactly what this stuff means and exactly what we're going to be doing. So let's take a closer look at these three ruffians, the scribes, the Sadducees, and the Pharisees, what they allegorically or symbolically represent. They're simply talking about
Okay.
space and matter. That is what makes up the simulated reality. Have we been getting roughed up by time, space, and
Hey.
matter, family?
No question.
Dang.
Roughed up, beat up.
and getting beat to death by it.
Oh, no question.
Right.
Same way, allegorically, as the scribes and the Sadducees, these are the things that are adversarial to us. It's the simulated reality that we're locked into. Now, as the ancestors were showing this to me, y'all see these triangles here?
Mm-hmm.
They were showing me these triangles set into circles, then a circle, a square arranged within the triangle, then a circle arranged in the square, and then a triangle arranged in a circle like that on into infinity. This is this descending feedback loop that we are locked into. Y'all hearing me?
Yes.
And it consists of three things that are actually one, representing time, past, present, and future, representing space, height, width, and depth, representing what we call matter, solid, liquid, gas. So, and we're going to find out that these are actually four things that are represented, but two things are molded into one. Follow me. For I, the Lord God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children. That is descent, family. Is it not?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all descent, right? That can't be ascent, right?
That's descent.
That's
Visit
descent, right?
unto the third generation, listen, of them that hate me. Exodus 20:5. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but they want
Right.
to revisit this. And it talks about the third, that number three again, and fourth generation. We already discussed what the third and fourth heaven as being what transition
Right.
points. So this is showing you, just like the fourth generation would be a transitional point, the fourth dimension is the fifth dimension is the transitional point. Are you all with me?
Absolutely. Right. Right.
It is the escape out of this. And it's represented by the fifth heaven where Aaron, Aharon, and the avenging angel hold court over this heaven. If y'all can't see this, if y'all can't see
I mean, not
come on now.
shows, not only see it, but hear it.
Right. Now see, we're gonna talk about the lion's grip. That's
Okay.
that's how Hiram Abiff was resurrected. He was
Right.
molded
Right.
this hand grip called the
That's the hand. Yeah, that's
Yes.
the so-called secret handshake.
that's it. Now, did we not do the lion's grip early on in the kingdom?
Oh,
Yes, we
absolutely.
did. Yes, we did.
But that wasn't for everybody to do, Nasik. It was just for Aharon and the avenging angel to grab the individuals trying to transition from the fourth heaven and the third heaven. Are you all with me? And pull
Dang.
them up to the fifth dimensional reality. I've told you that's the position we've been teaching from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't care if you believe me. Just acknowledge the fact that we said that.
Okay.
Absolutely, right.
No question.
Visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So when we look at space, space is governed by width, length, and height. That is three things that are one, right? That is three dimensions of space. Space being one
Mm-hmm.
of the three dimensions of what we call reality. One of the three dimensions of the material.
Simulated reality.
Right. Space is not nothingness.
Yeah,
It has three dimensions: width, length, and height. When an
Mm-hmm.
object
right.
moves, it moves through these three dimensions of space. So what we call the universe, remember that's only one dimension. It's made up of
Mm-hmm.
space and matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Three things that are actually one
Yes.
in nature. These three primary elements comprise what is known as the space-time continuum or the universe. The universe. These are the three that the universe, those three elements keep beating us up, keep whooping our
Mm-hmm.
tail. And if you remain in the universe, if you remain in the false matrix of reality, you're going to continue to get beat up. You're going to continue to die.
Yes.
There is an immeasurable and unimaginably huge universe out there, even though the most important part of it appears to be here. The physical universe is temporal, it's temporary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Its physical characteristics are defined qualitatively and quantitatively and by time, space, and then they say mass or matter, energy. They make these two things one, usually
Mm-hmm.
abbreviated as just matter. Do you understand what he's talking about, mentioning the third and fourth generation?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
The third and fourth heavens are related. They're related. The third heaven is just the gate, the gateway, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
fourth heaven is where Enoch took off at. But you got to get through the gateway. So they're related. They're different,
Right.
but they're related. Just getting to the launch pad ain't nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Getting onto the tarmac or the runway ain't nothing if you don't have no
Mm-hmm.
fuel to boost you
Mm-hmm.
out of it. Third and fourth dimensions, family. Third and fourth generation. We see how those are related.
Mm-hmm.
So the worldview of quantum mechanics consists of space, time, matter, and energy. And energy and matter are viewed as one entity. Third and fourth to the third and fourth generation. To the third and fourth generation. So matter composed of solid, liquid, gas, time, past, present, future, space, height, width, and depth. But all these things are a singularity. They appear
Mm-hmm.
to be separate,
Mm-hmm.
but the higher law, not the natural law, but the organic law, says everything is one, everything is holistic. So either you want to be the king of righteousness, doing things right, trying to get things right within this time space dimension, or you want to be the king of
Right.
Salem or Shalom.
Mm-hmm.
one that is what? Ascending to unity, ascending to oneness, to wholeness, healing yourself. That's what heal means. Make yourself whole, physician. Everybody up to speed.
Okay.
So these scientific elements were transferred into and spiritualized and religified, if that's a word, as the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. In the biblical narrative. But those
Where
three
we at?
things, go ahead.
What verse? What verse, Eitai?
No, I just made the statement. I didn't I'm
Okay.
making the
Okay. Okay.
statement that in the biblical narrative, they give us these three characters, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, again, who are one.
Right.
That is just a religious way of explaining an atom. Protons, neutrons, and electrons revolving around a nucleus. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Ordinary matter is comprised of atoms. Amazingly, atoms also have a 3-in-1 nature. That when you include the nucleus is actually 4, third and fourth dimension, third and fourth generations. They are comprised of 3 types of particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons, except hydrogen, which normally does not have neutrons. Protons and neutrons also are each comprised of 3 smaller particles called quarks. So we won't go, it's not necessarily to go, any lower or, because we're just going to continue to fall into that hole of descent. Our goal is ascension. So what are we ascending? That's what we've been talking about all along. This false matrix of reality. Time, space, and
Right.
matter.
Right.
This, what's called the electromagnetic spectrum. What they refer to as the visible light spectrum. And again, we see ordinary matter, and then, only comprising 4% of what's called the of the known reality, but it comprises 96% is dark matter, dark energy, which corresponds to what? Melanin within us, right? In the physical form.
Absolutely.
We have it within and without. Neuromelanin and eumelanin.
Right.
So, what is the control? We mentioned this the other day, epigenetics, the control outside of all of this, the control outside of the gene. The gene covers, it was falsely believed that the gene controlled what? Descent and descendants,
Right.
and also behavior
Right.
and experience. But it's perception, your thought. See, we must begin to understand we are Melchizedek. We are Hiram Abiff.
Yeah.
We are Solomon. We are Jesus.
Yeah.
So, relative to the gene controlling our biology and controlling, therefore, our behavior, it reads on this wise. gene expression begins with DNA and results in protein. For simplicity, we will describe gene expression as if it were a linear process. And we talked about this idea of the vertical integration of us within what? The hierarchical matrix. And
Right.
it begins with DNA and ends with protein. In reality, however, gene expression is part of an enormous, incredibly complex system of feedback loops. So what it's telling you there, that the gene is just feeding back information that is programmed within it. Simply put, we covered this yesterday. Gene expression produces proteins, which in turn regulate gene expression, sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly. The first step in gene expression is transcription. We talked about this word transcribe. It's just copying something. So if our perception and our point of view has only been human and has only been in terms of descent and not ascent, then this thing is going to get fed into all of the experiences, all of the memories. It's just going to be what? Simply human. Simply related to what? The three-dimensional, four-dimensional reality. And it's just going to be continuously copied and fed back within that loop. But epigenetics tells us that there is control outside of the gene. And we already said that that is our perception, that is our thoughts. The way that we think about and understand this universe. Most people, you're not going to be able to tell them that something exists beyond what they can see, touch, taste, smell, feel. Are you all with me? Akamaria talked about that yesterday. That five sense reality locks them into this three-dimensional universe, which is the false matrix. So the scriptures began to talk about in Jeremiah 8:22. They asked a question relative to the physician. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Well, if you're looking for a physician outside of yourself, see, this is the messianic trick, now see, that you referred to.
Yeah, right.
You're the physician.
Right.
Why then is not the health of the daughter of my people recovered?
Recovered, right.
The daughters that have been harmed and hurt. I'm just gonna say this, and if it takes 50 plus, it takes 50 plus years to heal them. You can't do it because you've not in 50 plus years dealt with the problem, dealt with the source that's caused the problem.
Right. That's the only way.
It's not. I don't care how many nation meetings you have. You're not, unless you are understanding this from an energetic standpoint. There's not going to be. The problem is going to persist. You're not going to heal it.
It has to. Absolutely has to. Right.
Moving further on into the scriptures, and he came to Nazareth.
Eitai, just
go right ahead, Nasi.
I was just going to say, we have to understand exactly what you're saying is that what recently happened was in the final phase of this vertical system,
yes,
and our ascension out of it that this situation had to happen to the community, but we have to understand that the daughter, you understand, has been the primary,
That's
you
correct.
know, objective of the enemy ever since.
That's correct.
You know, so it's not the healing of what took place, you know, recently in the kingdom. It has to be understood that this has been the objective ever since the fall.
That's correct.
You know, or our emanation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely correct.
Right.
We all,
Cunning.
yeah, we all need to have an understanding of that.
Yeah. Put it down. Down.
And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives. Now, where are they captive at? They're captive within the universe. They're captive by the 3/4 dimensions. And recovery of the sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book and gave it again to the minister and sat down. And the eyes of all of them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. Began to say unto them, This day is this scripture fulfilled in your ears. And all bare him witness and wondered at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, Is not this Joseph's son? Isn't he a descendant like the rest of us? Y'all hearing me? And y'all know,
Absolutely.
according to the legend, Joseph was a carpenter. And just like Hiram Abiff was what? A master architect.
Yeah.
And according to the legend, Jesus was a carpenter like his father. So this is all the same story.
Same story.
But we have to understand that we are like Melchizedek. No father, no mother. We the widow's son. And they kept trying to make, when they confronted Yeshua, don't we know your mother? Don't we know your father? Your brothers and sisters? And he was telling them, who is my mother? I'm the widow's son. Who is my father? Makes sense? Now,
That make all the sense in the world, because when you look at I had mentioned about this particular document, Caesar's Messiah, and in there they verify exactly what you just said in terms of there is no descent, there is no family. They can't find no historical family of the whole concept. So
right.
what the prophet was stating, who is my mother, who is my father, that verifies exactly what you just said.
Absolutely. And he said unto them, Ye shall surely say unto me this proverb, Physician, heal thyself. This is why the ancestors want us to deal with this. Whatsoever ye have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in thy country. And he said, Verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. And Jesus, going up to Jerusalem, took the 12 disciples. Now we know who the 12 are. 12 strand DNA. Apart in the way, And he said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed unto the chief priests. In other words, he's going to be beat up by the Sadducees, Pharisees, and the scribes, the three ruffians. All right? And they shall condemn him to death. Now, let's go back. Talk about Hiram Abiff and this aspect of death. It says that Hiram is presented as the chief architect of Solomon's temple, who was murdered in the temple he designed by the three ruffians, that is, the scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees, as they unsuccessfully attempt to force him to divulge the master mason's secret passwords. The themes of the allegory are the importance of fidelity and the certainty of death. Did Jesus or Yeshua certainly know that they would die? Of course they did. That's why in the narrative he's always predicting his death. They shall condemn him to death, and he shall die, and shall deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify him. And the third day he shall rise again. Physician, heal thyself. Jesus answered and said unto them, Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Why? Because I got the power to raise it up. And so do we. So do we. Continuing on, the tale of Hiram Abiff is passed down in Masonic lodges, underpins the third degree. Underpins the third degree, family. That's the gateway, the launch pad. It starts with his arrival in Jerusalem and his appointment by Solomon as chief architect and master of works at the construction of his temple. As the temple is nearing completion, are we nearing completion of this temple, family?
Absolutely.
Okay. We right at the end. 3 fellow craft masons from the workforce ambush him as he leaves the building, demanding the secrets of a master mason. Hiram is challenged by each in turn, and at each refusal to divulge the information, his assailant strikes him with a mason's tool, differing between jurisdictions. He is injured by the first 2 assailants and struck dead by the last. Died at the gate, which is the third dimension. We cannot fail, family, to make this transition into the 4th heaven and then into the 5th dimension. All of this is mental. Now let's go to the resurrection ritual of the Freemasons. During the legend of the third degree, the candidate portrays Hiram Abiff in the ritual. In other words, he acts like he's Hiram Abiff. He is blindfolded and led through the ritual by a conductor. Now, this ain't nothing but the hero's journey, family.
Yes, it is.
This ain't nothing but the hero's journey.
Yes, it is. In
Masonic ritual, or the fool's journey, however you want to term it. In Masonic ritual, Hiram Abiff is not a worker of brass as in scripture, but rather the grand master at the building of Solomon's temple. Each day he lays out the work for the workmen to complete. There are fellow crafts who work on the temple who are to be given the secrets of the master mason as compensation when the temple is completed. Once they have the secrets of the master mason, they will learn the wages of a master. I'm sorry, they will earn the wages of a master. A group of 15 fellow crafts decide that they do not want to wait until the work is completed. They form a plot, which only 3 of them carry through. The 3 ruffians sequentially accost Hiram at the east gate, the south gate, and the west gate. A similar dialogue occurs at each temple entrance. So the gates, family, are from the east, the rising of the sun, and then below the equator to the south gate, rising in the west gate. Now, this all has to do with the movement of the sun through the equinoxes, right? And through the solstices. We'll get into that later. Hiram explains, so if it's going, y'all know, if it's going down first from the east to the south to the west gate, then what must it do? Rise, right?
Right.
It has to rise.
Yes.
Moving from east to west, what? To the north gate, from east to the north gate, and then set again at the west gate. All of this stuff they've given us. The Hiram explains, the ruffians demand the secrets of a master mason. Hiram explained that this is neither the time nor the place. The secrets can only be revealed in the presence of 3, King Solomon, Hiram the king of Tyre, and myself. Now, this is what, when Jesus appeared before Pontius Pilate, and he was like, tell me, are you a king? This is the same conversation. And he said, yeah, he said, you say so, but my kingdom is not from here. Are y'all with me? If it were so, if it was a physical kingdom, we would do physical things. We would war in the physical. My disciples, my followers would come and do what? They would fight for me to free me.
Yes.
So this is the same, it corresponds perfectly with what the scriptures record. The ruffian demands your life or the secrets. Hiram responds, my life you can have, my integrity never. Again, corresponding to the Jesus narrative. When they fail to get what they want, they strike Hiram with one of the working tools. And this is when they put the purple robe and the crown of thorns on Jesus' hair, or the scarlet robe, or whatever, purple and scarlet. We talked about that those represent the ranges of what? The visible light spectrum. And then they began to beat him up within those parameters, the physical, right?
Okay.
And this is, how the soldiers, beat him up and mocked him and scourged him and took him to the cross to die. The working twos, he staggers to the next gate and the next encounter. The third ruffian is also unable to extract the secrets from Hiram Abiff. He strikes Hiram on the head with a setting maul and kills him. Hiram willingly laid down his life rather than betray his trust. That's the story of Jesus. That's the story of Jesus. The ruffians have not achieved their goal, and they have a body to dispose of. They bury the body in the temple rubble and plan to return at midnight to give the body a more decent burial. This is the whole Jesus story. At midnight, they return
Mm-hmm.
to carry the body to the hill west of Mount Moriah, where
Right.
Hiram Abiff is reburied. The next day, Hiram is nowhere to be found. The search is conducted. The fellow crafts who did not go through with the conspiracy confess the plot. A grave is found. The body of Hiram is found within it. Hiram Abiff has been in the grave for 15 days. We're going to get to this 15 days later. King Solomon gives the order for the body to be raised. See, the 15 days and the 15 conspirators, are you all with me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The 15 days and the 15 conspirators, of which only 3 carried it out. A group of 15 fellow crafts. So 15 minus 3 is what?
12.
Ah, King Solomon gives the order for the body to be raised using the grips of the entered apprentice and then the fellow craft. Those efforts are unsuccessful. King Solomon states that he fears that with the death of Hiram Abiff, the word of the master mason has been lost. Therefore, the first word spoken after Hiram is raised up from the grave will be the substitute until the lost word can be recovered. At that point, King Solomon raises Hiram Abiff from a dead level, to living perpendicular, using
Mm-hmm.
the real grip of the master mason known as the lion's paw. He embraces Hiram on the 5 points of fellowship, standing foot to foot, knee to knee, breast to
Mm-hmm.
breast, hand to back, and mouth to ear. King Solomon, played by the worshipful master, then whispers the substitute for the lost word in Hiram's ear. That word is Mahaboni. All right. So we see
Okay.
the, I'm sorry, someone said something?
No, we good, Chef.
All right. Anyway, moving forward and moving this right into the present time, family, we go to Amos, the 9th chapter, verses 8 through 12. And we're going to begin to close right here. Behold, the eyes of the Lord are upon the sinful kingdom. The eyes of the Lord are upon the sinful kingdom. Listen very carefully. And I will destroy it from the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob. That's the sinful kingdom that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob. Again, talking about this remnant family.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, as corn is sifted in a sieve. Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say, the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Now, this should make perfect sense to each one of us living in this particular time that are associated with the KOY. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. That means repair it, heal it. See, as a master builder. But this ain't got
Yes.
nothing to do with no, no institutions like that, or no hierarchical organization. That's what's going to get destroyed. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. In the days of old, there were no hierarchical systems.
Right. Yes.
The arrangement, family, was horizontal, side by side. Look,
Yes.
foot to foot, knee to knee, breast to breast. Are y'all with me?
Yes.
That's living perpendicular to one another.
Right. Yes.
Not in a hierarchical arrangement. That they may possess the remnant of Edom. A remnant of a remnant will possess the remnant of Edom, and all of the heathen, which are called by my name, saith the Lord, that doeth this. So he had to bring up Edom when he talked about closing up the breaches thereof, or what? Healing the wound. Healing the wound. But we must understand there ain't no Lord like that to do that. There ain't no outside physician like that to do that. There ain't no master builder coming that we should wait on to do that. We got to heal ourselves, family. We got to heal ourselves. And this begins with an understanding.
Eitai.
Let me finish. This begins with an understanding of the energetic nature of all things. That if we want to understand anything about the universe or the multiverse, for that matter, we must look at it from an energetic perspective. Go right ahead, Malkia.
In the scriptures, when it was talking about building Solomon's temple, didn't they say it was built without sound of hammer
That's absolutely correct.
and tool?
Wasn't built by man.
That's right.
Exact.
So as we elevate in consciousness, we must understand this about this group. And I said this to Nasi this morning, and I'll say it to you. We got a front row seat, family, to all of this.
No question. No question.
Dang.
If anyone is teaching, if you see anyone teaching exactly what we're talking about, covering this curriculum, covering this information, disseminating this knowledge in the manner that we're experiencing, show them to me. Because I would like to hear their perspective and learn from them. But we're in a very unique position. We've been saying this from the beginning. So, but we have to elevate our thoughts, the vibratory frequency of our thoughts, thus elevating our perception to get outside of the gene, to become the control outside of the gene, to put ourselves in a position to ascend. Family, we know how to do this. We know how to do this. What I'm simply doing, what we're simply doing, Nasik and I, are simply reminding you
Mm-hmm.
of the fact that you know this and that you know how to do this. The only way, if you can go
Mm-hmm.
through this, if you can go through this teaching that we've done over the last 3 days or so and have an understanding of this and can relate to it, and Malkiel, you get that excited feeling inside of you,
Yes.
know that, hey,
Absolutely.
I'm getting ready to travel. I'm getting ready to do something. I'm
Yes.
getting ready to ascend.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to know that we are right on time and that we have a front row seat to this.
No question. No question, Eitai.
And it's just a matter of, will we do it? We can do it. We have the capability. We've been equipped to do it. We have everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, will we do it? Will we do it?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to end on that note and open it up for questions, comments, additions.